For more insight on this investigation, I want to bring in CTV News public safety analyst Chris Lewis. Always appreciate your time, Chris. A lot to unpack here. I want to start first with the charges that this 14-year-old is now facing. First-degree murder, that indicates something that was planned and premeditated. What did the nature of these charges tell you, and why do you think it wasn't second-degree murder?
Well, investigatively, they'll have determined some sort of motive here. Maybe the young person has spoken to police and told them what and why. But the planning and deliberation is the wording around first-degree murder. That doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be something thought out and planned for days. But if somebody goes out with a knife with the intention of killing someone, that's planned and is deliberate, as opposed to two people getting in a fight and one pulling a knife out and causing their death. That would be second-degree murder.
There are a couple of pieces of information that police are holding close to their chest, including the location of where this young boy was arrested. Why would that information not be released?
I have no idea, Jamie. That seems odd to me. Obviously, the police have a reason for that. Otherwise, they would have released it. And there was some talk about people helping, the members of the public helping to capture this individual or stop him. Are they trying to not give away maybe the address of someone that did? Something to that effect. Otherwise, I really don't understand.
Chris, I want to go back to when this all unfolded. And, in my 20 years of covering crime in our city, I don't think I can recall a time where police distributed one of those Amber-type alerts telling people to shelter in place and lock public buildings down because they're conducting a manhunt. Can you tell a little bit more about what you think led police to do that and the severity of the situation? Why would it elevate to that kind of public notice?
Well, there's a lot of controversy, Jamie, on the East Coast of Nova Scotia when the individual shot killed a number of people over a period of time. And the fact that he was on the loose and the public alert didn't go out became highly criticized during the subsequent inquiry into that. So police agencies have had that kind of at the front of mind. But if someone's sheltered in a house, that's one thing. But when someone's on the move in a community and police know it with a knife, they've already killed somebody, there is an obligation to at least notify the public as best they can. And in this case, they did that. There will be some questions, could they have done it sooner? But certainly they're not going to put an alert out unless they have the information. Who are they looking for? Mm-hmm. Otherwise, some poor kid in a green ski jacket might get grabbed when that's not who they're looking for at all.
Do you anticipate that there is going to be some criticism, considering from what we understand that this murder took place prior to 3 o'clock, but the alert didn't go out closer to 6?
Yeah, there will be some discussion around that for sure, and there may be valid reasons for it, but Durham Region are certainly going to evaluate that and do a kind of a post-mortem on it in terms of what did they know and when, what was confirmed and when, how did the release go out, when did the OPP hit the button to put it out. So all those time factors will be evaluated, and if they could have done it better, they will next time. In the meantime, it's important to know that no one else was hurt. So that's important.
In terms of the ongoing investigation, one of the things that was brought up in that police conference is that there is some other surveillance footage, allegedly, it has yet to be confirmed, of this young individual a couple days prior to this attack, I believe on May 25th, at around 3 o'clock in the morning, lurking in some backyards. We don't know exactly where or which house, but there is this video circulating. I'm wondering, how do you think that's going to impact the investigation, and what does it tell you when a 13-year-old is lurking in backyards at 3 o'clock in the morning? How is this going to help police investigators?
Well, certainly it'll help police to establish some premeditation in terms of him out walking around. Was he looking for victims at the time? Or was it something more innocent? But the investigation is going to show that, Jamie. It may be, good evidence in court one way or another, and it may not, depending on what the investigation shows.
In terms of the investigation moving forward, you have to assume that investigators are going to look at the social media footprint of this individual, what kind of content they might have been consuming, but also whether or not this individual has any kind of medical history or any history of mental health issues that may or may not have been addressed. Can you talk a little bit more about that aspect of the investigation?
For sure. And I mean, mental health issues, when a 14-year-old kills an elderly woman with multiple stab wounds, there has to be a mental health issue involved at some level. So they're going to do a very deep dive into him like they would any suspect in terms of who he hangs out with, who he talks to, his family, his background, his medical health history, or his mental health history, social media presence, any groups he may be involved with and speaking to. So, I mean, that's a pretty standard approach, particularly when a 14-year-old kid's like when kids kill, trying to understand the why is important, not just from an evidentiary perspective, but for mental health professionals to try and figure out what makes people tick, why these things occur, and what can they do to prevent it in other children.
You know, this situation is so tragic. It is heartbreaking. It is shocking. But, furthermore to what you were talking about, Chris, the topic of young people committing violent crime, it's not a surprise to a lot of people in our city. We've had the swarming death of a homeless man stabbed to death by, young girls as young as 14 years old. We've had, kids getting arrested with Glocks in home invasions. And now you're seeing something like this. But I want to ask you about, how rare it is for someone who might not have a criminal record to all of a sudden elevate to committing one of the most intimate and violent crimes, which is stabbing someone to death.
Absolutely. I mean, sociologists, criminologists, and psychologists are going to be studying this whole phenomenon around kids and violent acts for years to come. I know there's a lot of writings out there now talking about the effect that COVID had on kids through those very formative years where they were very isolated, didn't get to deal with the public, spent a lot of time on the internet. What have they read? What sites have they visited? And what has that led to from a psychological perspective? Some kids are abused. I'm not suggesting that's the case here. Some kids are from very troubled homes. Some of that leads to violent acts. That may well not be the case here. And sometimes people just have serious mental health issues, and it's going to happen, sadly. And then we're going to be talking about it again. It's really frightening to see the number of kids involved in violent acts over the last 3 or 4 years.
Chris, last question here. This 14-year-old is now facing first-degree murder charges due to a publication ban. There's only so much we can say, but how do you think it's likely that this 14-year-old could potentially be tried and as an adult? What's your take?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It'll depend a lot on what the investigation shows, particularly if there's any kind of other acts that have occurred prior to indicate that maybe he was actually looking for someone to kill, as in the videos that are allegedly that he's in people's backyards, etc. What has he said? What is the investigation going to show about his background to make that determination? Once again, there's going to be a strong argument by defense around mental health issues. So a lot to consider. And as you said at the beginning, Jamie, a lot to unpack here.
At CTV News public safety analyst and former OPP commissioner, Chris Lewis, always appreciate your time and perspective. Thanks for joining me.
Anytime, Jamie. Thank you.